Yeah.
My favorite.
It's Judd's Hockey Show.
And it is Judd's Hockey Show as we get closer and closer to the draft next weekend, which won't really affect the Wild much because right now they don't have a first-round pick. But we do get closer and closer to July 1st free agency starting. A major impact, lots of wheeling and dealing. It sounds like Bill Guerin, according to reports, working the phones, which I think most GMs are at this point anyway. But before we start, Judd and AJ here, I want to talk to you about our good friends at Parlor, and I want to tell you about the new Parlor location in Excelsior. So I've been talking about the one down West 7th Street from the X for quite some time now. You know that there is also one in the North Loop, but did you know that there is a Parlor now out west in Excelsior? So if you're going for a day on the lake, if you're going to enjoy yourself, Excelsior, great little town, stop in and check it out. Parlor, I've talked about the craft cocktails. I've talked about the fantastic burger that we all know about, the chicken sandwich. The menu is actually absolutely top to bottom outstanding. The burger is the star of the show, but there are at least 4 lines, if not more, of quality there as well. So check them out, Parlor, Supper Club, and a regular Parlor bar, new location, Excelsior. All right, Age. So, you know, it's funny. Last, I think it was September, when Craig Leopold, the owner of the Wild, had a bunch of media in his suite for a preseason game, as he does to sort of, I don't know, set the stage for the season, give his state of the team. He referred to July 1st being like Christmas Day because the Wild's going to have nearly $16 million in salary cap space. Salary cap's going up. Parisi and Suter off the books. All of that good stuff. But the free agent market at some very key spots, namely center, is just absolutely taking a hit. So
it's going to be like during a recession. Like, it's still Christmas morning, but keep your expectations a little lower than what they normally are.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Christmas now. I think we might have to cancel it. Matt Duchene now, and I don't know that he was a primary target of Dallas or of the Wild. He's going back to Dallas. He was a primary target of some teams, it certainly sounds like. Back to Dallas, 4 years, $18 million, so that's not an unreasonable 4.5 AAV for Duchene. But now, Brock Nelson back to Colorado as well a couple of weeks ago. Sam Bennett announcing completely housed last night at a club. He was, I'm sure, beyond drunk. Good for him. That he was not going to leave Florida. Now, that's not necessarily true, but he's going to get paid now way too much. I mean, he's going to get paid way more than I think a lot of teams are comfortable with. I would guess that includes the Wild. So before we get into the exercise I want to do here, what's your takeaway? Because this market, like, it is either trade or nothing, and I don't see a way that there is a center now that I am desperate to sign on the market unless you can get Tavares on a reasonable deal, maybe?
Yeah, well, I'm looking, I have the Athletics, like, free agency big board pulled up, and there's, in the top 10 of, like, their top free agents, there's 3 centers. Sam Bennett, who they project right now at, like, 6 years, 6.6 AAV, which right now, given the circumstances, seems awfully low.
That's low.
He might tickle 8, like that at this range. Some team might get desperate and just throw $8 million at him. You have John Tavares, who they're projecting at 3 years, just under 8, like 7.9 and some change. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable doing that with John Tavares, depending on what else the Wild do. If you could do 2 years at that, maybe. But
well, and the market now, because it's depleted, is driving all of these salaries up.
Exactly. And then the next guy is Jonathan Taves, who hasn't played in 2 years. That's your top 3 centers, according to The Athletic. And frankly, I don't disagree, because Michael Granlund's a couple spots back. And
is he a center, though? I mean, he's a wing, he's a center.
They have him listed center wing, so, whatever. The other guy who might be like your cheap option if all else fails, who I don't hate, the metrics don't necessarily back him up, but Pius Suter, who I wanted him to sign with the Wild a few years back, but then he went to Detroit, and then I think he got dealt to Vancouver.
Yeah.
He's not like a flashy guy by any means, but he's kind of a...
Yeah, but this isn't what we're talking about.
Exactly, but that's not the splash you want. Like, if you said, here's your Christmas gift, and you unwrap it, and you're expecting a Sam Bennett or a John Tavares or whoever else, a one scene, you get Pius Suter, you're going to say, do you have the receipt? I would like to take this back to the
I'm going to take it back.
Dad.
Yeah, it's a damn tie for Dad.
Yeah, exactly. It's in a spot where if the Wild really want to acquire a 1 or 2 center, they're going to have to try to make a trade work. And overpaying for one of these other guys, I feel like would be a reckless work decision. Like that would just put you in a terrible spot. And I know they do have some money to work with, but I think better results would be winger. You pay him a hefty amount who's going to add to the top 6 scoring, and then you address the center situation if you do really, truly want to move on from Marco Rossi. But we'll see what they do. Like you said, Bill Guerin supposedly, and like he should be because it's the time of the year, is working the phones. We'll see what Billy G has up his sleeves.
And I saw he appeared on a radio show in Canada. I forget which one, but I was going through the quotes yesterday, and now he's trying to, and he tried to do this with the Athletic as well. He's trying to put the genie back in the bottle a little bit by saying, "This is not. I love Marco Rossi.
Of course,
he's asking for a little too much." But I keep coming back to, but you put him on the 4th line in the playoffs. Like, to me, that speaks the volumes, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't know that you can make us forget, go back in time and make us forget that you and your coach put this kid on the 4th line. But yeah, this is definitely not the Christmas that I think in last September Craig Leopold was hoping for. You're right. It's the recession of Christmases. Times aren't good. Dad's basically, you're going to get one gift. And I'm inclined to agree that you probably try to sign a winger and trade for a center. And that might be a very, the one thing I will caution is I would not be surprised if the trade for center is a splash trade. Like if you see some of the names going the other way are like, whoa, that's a lot to pay. Yeah. But I would rather, I do think it has to be addressed. I don't see, this team has pressure to win immediately, and I don't know that there is a way here to, hey, Jonathan Toews is going to come back here and give it a shot. Okay, but if it doesn't work, you're completely screwed.
Yeah.
But the Athletic yesterday, Michael Russo and Joe Smith, they came out with their tiers of wild players as far as trade possibilities, okay? Mm-hmm. So they tiered them to like from Kirill, which we won't even talk about, but Kirill was don't even ask. So like if you call Bill Guerin, to most likely to be traded, and then there's 1, 2, 3 spots in between. So I want to run through these names with you and bandy about our thoughts on if these guys are slotted properly and if you would trade them even if the Athletic guys think that Bill Guerin won't. Okay?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Again, Kirill. Don't even ask. That's it for Kirill. And in fact, again, that's another important July 1st date one because you want to get the contract done. And now I see out of Edmonton, there's some concern because Connor McDavid was very, what's the word I'm looking for, tepid in his remarks about returning to Edmonton.
Yeah.
And now the fans up there are freaking out because they're like, he might leave. So, we could be going through some of the same things. I think there's this expectation that July 1st is going to hit and Kirill's going to sign and all is going to be right with the world, which would be awesome. But I don't know what's going to transpire there. Okay. Next level, not going anywhere. Matt Boldy, Brock Faber, Joel Eriksson, Zeev Buyum, Matt Zuccarello, who does have a full no move, and Marcus Johansson because he got a 1-year contract with a no trade clause, so he's got protection. So the Johansson one is he wouldn't waive it because he just signed here. So like, roll your eyes at that, but it's probably dead on accurate. The one that I thought was interesting, and he's got a full no move again, is Zuccarello at 37. The reasoning with Russo and Joe Smith is partially the fact that he also is Kirill's buddy, and that if the Wild is in the midst of trying to get Kirill to return here, they probably aren't going to trade his best friend. But Boldy, Faber, Eriksson, Buyum, Zuccarello, Johansson, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think they move on. I think maybe of the first like grouping of guys that like Buyum might be the one that if they had to like throw in a really big splash to get like somebody else back and probably another defense, Buyum would be like, because you don't really know what he is. And I think there's always that, like, what you're getting versus the ceiling projected of guys, but also you traded up for him. How good he is. And I know they didn't play him in the playoffs, but that shouldn't sour play him as much as I think I wanted him to in the playoffs. That shouldn't sour anything. Zuccarello, I know he's 37, and I know he's probably like it's either this year or this and next year, and he's probably done. But you almost have to, I think, keep him around, one, because of the no move that he has, but also with you're trying to extend Kirill. And now the Kirill Connor McDavid thing is like, if Kirill's camp is waiting on Connor McDavid to extend, but now he's, like you said, very tepid about, I don't know if I necessarily want to. Who knows what's going to happen here? If that draws out, is Kirill's situation going to draw out? And then are you going to have to say, hey, Zuki, can you get in his ear and say, hey, it's very nice to stay here in Minnesota. You should absolutely tie things down.
That's a really good question. I guess it depends on this as far as Kirill's
Because does that handicap the Wild too? Well, like if they don't know how much money they can necessarily work with, can they make free agent moves? It's a weird situation though.
I think the question when it comes to Kirill and his camp though is what is the comp that they are drawing? Like McDavid's in another world, so I don't know that it's worth your time to like wait on his payday unless you want like a percentage of the payday. Like I think there's some general comps here. But I'm just saying that the McDavid thing's a reminder that guys don't have to sign immediately and guys can wait and see. And look, if I'm Kirill, I do want to see what this team does. Like there's some things I want to see. What is because if I'm Kirill and your contract goes through this season, what I want to see is what do you do to prove to me that you are dead serious about winning? Because Kirill's been on good teams before. Like he knows what it looks like. And he's a very nice kid, but I got to think that you're not that good without a ton of competitive fire. So I could see him saying, hold on a second, let's see what you guys do. Let's see what you do. Because you're allocating my money starting next year and the cap is going up. Like you've got room to do things. So like that's where I think it gets to be a intriguing conversation. And I have no idea what the approach is going to be, but I also wouldn't blame him one bit for saying, you guys haven't been past, or we have not been past the first round of the playoffs in my tenure here. And there have been times I've been at fault, sort of, and there have been times I have not been at fault. But at the end of the day, I am not a kid now. He's not a kid. No. And I want to win on this contract. So let's see what you do. I think it could be interesting.
I agree. Yeah.
How about that? Without scaring people. Yeah. I think it could be interesting.
I will say, excuse me, based on what the athletic duo here is doing, if they put him in the don't even ask tier, those guys are very, very in the know. So that I feel like it'd be one thing if there was rumors the past couple of months that he's not fully sure. Like we heard a leak that he's kind of 50-50 or he's not even 80-20. Like he's right. If he's in that tier, they have to feel somewhat confident that not, because obviously they can't extend him right now. It's not July 1st, but maybe they're hearing him. Yeah, he feels comfortable where he's at and he's confident with the Wild. I'm looking into that, but obviously I'm just speculating here.
Well, and look, on the case of and this is the parallel as far as the Wild franchise goes. In the case of Marian Gaborik, right?
Yeah.
You whiffed on that. Doug Riseborough whiffed on that hard. And if nothing else, and this applies to Kirill as well, taking calls on Kirill would not even be a possibility unless he indicates to you, I'm not going to sign yet. And then you get to the deadline and he hasn't signed, at which point I think you have to trade him because you can't have, Gaborik was not as good a player as Kirill, but previous to Kirill, he's the best player in franchise history. Yeah. Sorry, Mikko. But if you look at that, not trading him, how far back did that set the franchise? Because you allowed the best player in your history who made it clear, hey, I want to go to the Rangers or the Kings. You allowed him to walk. I also think on the same type of note, like Matt Zuccarello, you would not look to ask him to waive his full no move now. Now, if you get to the deadline and you're not doing well and you stink, I could see saying to Zucky, okay, we'll look to move you. We'd like you to go to Kirill and say, if Kirill's going to stay, we'd like you to go to Kirill and say, I asked to be moved. Yeah. So different situations. I just think the Kirill thing, we should be prepared for him not to sign on July 1st. But I'm also have seen nothing, to your point, that has indicated that he doesn't want to be here. So I think it does get done. We just want it to be easy, and I don't know that these negotiations are often easy.
Yeah, and at trade deadline, if for some reason things just go south for this team and they're not in a position to go to the playoffs, and it's like, okay, Zuccarello, you're 37, you're going to be 38. Like, who knows how much you have left? Do you want to waive it? That
Right.
seems like the veteran courtesy. There's not really any bad blood there. It's not like you're forcing him out. It's you're asking him if you want to do a favor. Hey,
Correct.
If you want to go somewhere to compete, we will absolutely do that for you. But like, you tell us what you kind of want to do. I don't think that would be like any weird. Frankly, you'd expect by that time Kirill is hopefully locked up if that's the case. Like,
well, he's not. That's when you would have to look at trading him as well. Like, there's no way that you can't take him to the deadline if he's indicated to you, or past the deadline. You can take him to the deadline. You can't take him past the deadline if he's indicated to you that this might be it, or I'm disappointed, I don't want to be here, whatever it is. And if and when that happens, you got to cross the bridge. Right now, you don't have that. The McDavid thing, just to me, sort of sets off alarms, though, about how highly competitive these guys are. I think McDavid stays, but he certainly left the door open that that it's not a slam dunk, at least not right now.
Yeah, I mean, if Wayne Gretzky can be traded in his career, sure can Connor McDavid, and it'd be hilarious if it's both times the Edmonton Oilers. But to kind of put a bow on this before we go through the rest of the tiers here, for the people maybe like listening to this, freaking out like, oh my God, are they saying that Kirill's not? I think Kirill does still stay and everything like that. And I think it probably gets wrapped up this offseason. Like, maybe if not, we'll have a conversation in the future. Of like,
if it's not wrapped up by opening night, we got problems on opening night.
Exactly. And that's where then we have a conversation like, what's your deadline? Because I wouldn't want to even take it to the deadline. I think his value for a team, you're going to get more earlier in the season because if they're contending, how much do they actually want to give up?
Yeah, it depends on what he is telling you. All I know is that Leopold said nobody will pay him more or give him more term, which is accurate because the Wild is the only team that can give him 8 years right now, or as of July 1st. If he hits the market, it's 7 years. So Craig is right about that. But yeah, it's worth monitoring and keeping in mind as opposed to dismissing as a foregone conclusion, because that, my friends, is bad luck. Before we get to our next tier, I want to talk about our good friends at Neos Elite Performance. If you are an athlete who, guess what, is slowed by knee pain, back pain, has been slowed down, you can't get back on the golf course, you can't get back on the basketball court, heck, pickleball. You like to play pickleball, and now you say, I really can't. Neos is going to take care of that because they have cutting-edge regenerative medicine and cellular IV therapy that's designed to get you going again without invasive procedures. We're talking about white glove service. What does that mean? That means no trips to the doctors, no trips to the hospital. The experts at Neos, their team is going to come to you to get rid of that pain, to stop the suffering, and restore the function, get you back to doing, in short, what you love. They also, if you reference our flagship show, Purple Daily, are going to give you $500 off a cellular IV therapy treatment. That's right, $500 off. You're going to find out what Shug and the experts at Neos bring to you. No surgery, no downtime, just results. Schedule now at neoselite.com, Neos Elite.com. All right, next tier. I think next tier is it's the first interesting one, I think, where we're going to have some discussions here, some heart-to-hearts. Likely going nowhere. Philip Gustafson, Marcus Foligno, full no move clause, 3 years left, $4 million, very reasonable AAV right now. Jake Middleton, Declan Chisholm, who is going to be a restricted free agent. The Athletic thinks that Bill Guerin will give him a qualifying offer. He will return. So that's probably why he's not going to be traded. Yeah. But I mean, again, that's sort of in the Johansson camp to me. It's an anomaly outside of the guys that we're talking about, the veteran guys. And Jesper Wallstedt, Gustafson, Foligno, Middleton, Chisholm, who I almost think we should take out of this discussion, and Wallstedt. What are your thoughts on those? Well, if you take out Chisholm, 4 players.
I'd almost argue that Philip Gustafson needs to be in the tier above this. Like, based on his recent play, Because yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere, but I would say he's also probably on the border of he's fringe not going anywhere because now you no longer have capable backup in Marc-Andre Fleury. You don't know, like, I don't want to say you have head case young guy Wallstead because he's coming off a very weird, odd season for such a high rated prospect. Like,
yeah, I'm not giving up on a first round pick, that's for sure.
No, I'm not either. But you do have, you don't have a reliable, you don't really know what you have there quite yet. I think you almost have to say that he's not going anywhere. But if it but also the limits of trades are so endless. Like, if he is the guy that is able to get something over the line and you are getting something back, like, I would at least hear it out. Foligno is interesting because, yes, I also don't think he's likely to go anywhere. He's such a leader in terms of the leadership group that we were talking about the other day with Jesse Pierce on Wednesday. He is probably the most, he feels like the most like vocal in your face type of, and maybe Kirill seems very blunt. He can be blunt with guys behind the scenes. Just because he's, you have the story about him like texting, like, stop putting me with the bad players or whatever. And that's more just like funny than anything. But Foligno kind of brings his own unique style of leadership. I almost think you can't move on from him right now until you have somebody else. Because what else, veteran, like, winner wise, and granted, he hasn't really done much in the playoffs in his career to like know about that. But very team friendly contract. You know what he does for you. When he is contributing, and I think we saw that either late in the season and sometimes in the playoffs, like, that $4 million is a steal. So that's fine. Jake Middleton was having a really, really good season, and then he got hurt. And he came back and played pretty solid. So it's not like, and I want to say that his deal, I don't have it in front of me, but his deal is also relatively team friendly.
Yeah, I've got it right here. I just called it up. His cap hit is for next
4.5
season. It's 4.4.
Okay. I mean, and
that, yeah, it's team friendly.
Yeah.
And he also has a modified no trade clause, July 1st, 2026 through term, which is a 15-team no trade list. So if that's the case, then the way I'm reading this, it has not kicked in yet. But anyway, it's a very team-friendly contract. It's a good contract.
Declan Chisholm, I know you said we could take him out of here, but frankly, if a team if for some reason,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's more of a
he's a
semantics.
Kicker. Like, throw him in there. Especially because you're going to have Buium, you're going to have Juracek, and Juracek, I think,
he's just an extra defenseman, and they're going to qualify him, so they're just saying he's coming back, and so he's probably likely not going to be traded. He doesn't belong in this zip code though. Mm-hmm. Like, you would trade him in a heartbeat.
Last one there that you mentioned, yes, for Wallstead. And I would say I'm with you. I don't want to give up on a guy that is that highly rated, or at least was 2 years ago. He's coming off a very weird season, but you just don't lose that level of skill. You don't just suddenly become not a good goaltender. I mean, we've seen that with guys that kind of just flare out, but I think for other circumstances, he hasn't really had a like full dip in the water of NHL hockey. He's had a couple like splashes of it, but he hasn't had a sustained swim yet. Once I see that, and if it doesn't work out, then yeah, I'm ready to start thinking about writing him off. But right now, I still think you have to at least back him, give him a chance to regain his footing, because you traded, similar to Z Buium, you traded up for him in a sense. He was at one point, I think, the best goalie prospect in the world until Askarov came around. And then it was kind of like a 50-50 debate. You had people on both sides of the fence. He's shown that he should be super good. Mm-hmm. And frankly, as much as I was on the narrative of I would love to have Marc-Andre Fleury mentor him last year, his play style and kind of like the concise robotic movements of like, you're not really flashy, you're just fundamental. We're going to almost bore you to death by stopping all these pucks. It really suits what Phil Gustafsson does. They're both Swedish, so you have the countryman to kind of mentor him now. Similar play styles, like, it works out well. And I think spending the room or sharing the room with Fleury last year, probably, I would like to think, has rubbed off on Gustafsson a little bit to where he can now mentor him in a good way and prepare him to be a real NHLer.
I think Gustafsson fell down. If they had done this a year ago, I don't remember if they did or not. I think Gustafsson would have been in the not going anywhere category, but then he fell. But then he had the tough year. So two 2 years ago, right? He was really good, and then he had the tough year, and then he bounced back. So yeah, I think he's your number one goaltender. So I think that this is accurate. I don't think he gets traded. On Foligno, Middleton, and Volstead, though. And I agree, I do not want to give up on a first round pick. Goaltenders are very weird.
Yeah.
But on all three of those, if the trade was right, I would trade any of the three. And this is what I'm saying as far as the center goes. Now, Foligno would have to waive his no move. I don't know that he would. It's the hammer that guys have, which is why I hate it so much.
Yeah.
By the way, good job. NBA. There's like two of them. There's that's it. Get these out of the NHL. Hate them. But on Foligno, Middleton, or Volstead, I would trade, if it's the right trade for a center, any of those three is fair game. Any of those three. And this is my point from before, is I think that we are looking at, if Bill Guerin's going to make a type of trade for a center and get a center who can help Eck, not a guy who's just a name on a depth chart, and they don't think that Rossi is that guy, which they have clearly stated they do not, then I would trade any of those three. And Middleton's contract, well, heck, Foligno's contract, both of them are great contracts.
Yeah.
So that's what you deal with. So this is probably right, because the headline in The Athletic is likely not going anywhere. That's probably accurate.
Yeah.
But we're to a tier now where I am very open. I'm not looking to trade them, but I am very open to trading them in the type of deal that I think that the Wild has to make. Because, again, I'll go back to what I keep saying. There is pressure to win next season.
Yes.
They could talk
and
about
none of these guys
plan.
are off limits, is the thing.
Yeah. And they could talk about the 5-year plan, and what are we, in year 3 or 4 of it? I don't know. But who cares? The reality is, internally, the second that the Parise and Suter contracts came off the books, and they are now, for the most part, off the books, there is pressure to win. And you're going to have to make a trade. You cannot repeat. You can't say, well, I really like Jake. Seems like a great guy. That's awesome. Don't care. Don't care. Yeah. All right, next one I like a lot, called It's Possible, because I have at least one of the first 3 names that I would be looking to trade actively right now, okay?
Okay.
But from The Athletic, it's possible they're traded by the Wild tier. Ryan Hartman, Jonas Brodin, who does not have trade protection. He is rehabbing again from, I believe he did have a surgery. He had something again. Like, he is 31 and hurt a lot now, long story short. Brodin, Jared Spurgeon, and then the last 2 names for It's Possible, Yakov Trenin. I mean, yes, I'd love to trade him. David Juracek, who they just got from Columbus for a slew of picks. And keep in mind, it's called It's Possible. Hartman, Brodin, Spurgeon, Trenin, Juracek.
Hartman, yes. I know you've been banging the drum on this since the playoffs, but with similar to Sam Bennett, somebody's going to overpay for him. You're going to have to go recency bias on Ryan Hartman too. Some team is going to get befuddled into why they traded for this guy, and then he, is just not the player that they saw for the final 2 weeks of the season. Doesn't he? I think he has a modified no trade, so it's not like every team in the league is off limits.
15 teams on July 1st.
So that limits your options, but you certainly could move him. And for the sake of opening up a roster spot for either a winger, like one of these younger wingers, or a Dania Yurov, like a clear path to that 3 center role, to me, that seems like a no-brainer. Like, if he's back here, yeah, that's fine. I can live with that. But I'm going to have to...
He gave you a gift, the playoff gift. And by the way, I think he could be very good in the playoffs on a good team with the infrastructure that's right. They're not there. The Wild's not there yet. Like, don't tell me he's going to be your Sam Bennett someday. Ship sailed on that, baby.
But if you tell me that they are bringing him back and they're not going to trade him, and they know, okay, his role is going to be third line winger. Like, that is now Ryan Hartman's role. Or if he fills in, he'll swap third line center sometimes. I can live with that as long as they're not trying to push this agenda that he is once again a top 6 guy.
Yeah, I think he's going to screw you, though. I think he's going to screw you. I think he got, he got suspended. They basically threatened him and said, you have to be on your best behavior or else. And he was, and he played well. it feels like we've seen the movie before, and the sequel is never that good.
You know where I feel like he'd just work out well? He like maybe even a Florida Panthers squad.
Yeah, I think he'd be great on the Florida team.
But also, he feels like a Chuck Fletcher guy. He feels like a out in Philly, him and Nick Delorier.
Fletcher's gone though.
That's right. Oh my God.
He got blown out. It's Danny Briere now. And they are looking for centers, by the way.
Of course they are. Yeah. I don't think he waives it though. I think he would rather stay here. But
yeah, but he's got there's 17 teams that he can be traded to without his approval.
I guess I'm saying though, if those 17 teams aren't interested, and he strategically puts it, if they say, look, we have this deal on the table, you would have to waive it. I feel like he would say, you know what, too bad for you. I would rather stay. Jonas Brodin is one where I feel terrible saying this because I do think when he's playing, he's such a good player. Yep. But given the injury history, given that he's now 31 and you're not going to get more durable in the next few years.
Yep.
And just because he's one of the very, very, very few guys that has zero protection whatsoever, I would be okay with moving on. I would need to see what is coming back in a trade. And you're not just trading him for trading, like just didn't blow him out here.
No.
But yes, if it's a decent return, I'm not going to shed a tear, is what I'll say.
I just wonder what his value is because I agree with you. He's a great player, a great skater, fantastic. But I wonder what, at his age and with all of the injuries now, like to me, it feels like if you're going to make a major trade, like if you're doing the Tage Thompson trade or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to ask, and this is just all pie in the sky hypothetical for me, but Jake Middleton is a guy I would want. Brodin is a guy I would have wanted previously. But I think you're gonna get lowballed at every turn because he's been hurt so much.
Yeah.
So like I'm with you. If somebody wants him included in a blockbuster trade, I'm open to that. I just wonder what the feeling around the league is now because injury history has become so enormous. Like going into a season, he's probably not ever again going to approach 82 games. And by the way, I fully expect he's going to go play for Team Sweden in the Olympics, which is going to make next year even tougher on him because that prolongs the season for him and puts him in high profile or high pressure games.
Yeah. I mean, what's the over under for him games played next season with the, if you put the Olympics into account, 60, 62,
he just gets hurt.
He's going to miss time. He's going to miss time. If you say Buffalo for a Tage, is Rasmus Dahlin, his countryman, banging the drum? Hey, I want Brodin here in my defense.
And do they want an older guy like that too? Like Buffalo's so screwed up. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I think the next name really intrigues me. I think somebody would take him. He's 35, 2 years left, modified no trade, but he's coming off a season where I think he had pretty good, decent health. Now he also has problems in the past as well, so I might be wrong here. But Jared Spurgeon intrigues me as a chip in a trade, not the primary chip, but a important chip.
I think that would solve a handful of problems for you, and maybe not problems is the right word, but handful of potential issues. One, like we were talking about, is staying on the leadership topic. Leadership that allows you to move on and try to find a different main voice for the locker room. Two, we've talked about how good he is and how smart he is over his career, but also he is 35. You can't really expect him to raise a ceiling anymore. You're going to start seeing regression at some point, and being a smaller guy, it might become more noticeable. And also, he's a guy that is coming off of 2 years now, or a year ago now, pretty intense hip and lower back stuff.
No, you're right.
Once again, he's going to miss time. So if a team wants to say, hey, we need a veteran. We know what and frankly, he might be.
You're right.
More reliable in the sense of being on the ice than Brodin at times, just to get in terms of dressing and being on the ice. It's tit for tat. Who knows?
Yeah.
But once again, I'd be fine. And I said, and I was the hot take of a few shows ago, of all the guys I would like to see, why not Jared Spurgeon? You could probably get something for him right now, and that could be a decent swan song before he's out. And
this all comes back to if a team realistically is going to have a wild impact defenseman put into a massive trade, it's Jake.
Yeah.
because you're right. Spurgeon, I'm going off the recency bias of Brodeen, but with the hip problems in Spurgeon's past, I'm not saying that you couldn't trade both.
No.
But if we're talking about the type of trade that's going to land you a number one center, and they want a defenseman. Well, one, they're going to ask for Zeev. They're going to ask for Brock. No. We'll get to your check in a second.
Yeah.
But I would say that the one guy, and you would hate to do it, but you're not winning right now. Like you're a first round and out. There's nobody who's untouchable beyond Kirill Kaprizov. So it's probably Jake, which I would, by the way, do. Again, I would do it.
Yeah.
If it's the right trade, I'm doing it.
It really comes for the right trade. Yes, I can part with him as much as like personality wise, fans love him, that type of thing. It's a business at the end of the day. I would rather win than have Jake Middleton on my team. It'd be nice to have both, but if it's one or the other, I'm taking winning a Stanley Cup.
Yep. And just to clear up one thing too, because I'm seeing this in the dialogue about some of the guys that were traded to the Panthers, and I want to talk about Sam Bennett in particular. Okay.
Oh, okay.
And Declan pushed hard, I believe it was back in the day, on JHS for him here.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I'd like to clear up is he's been great there. Well, he's been great in the playoffs. He was great like the regular season stats are fine. Mm-hmm. But the one thing that I think is important to point out is just because a guy goes like that and has success with a team doesn't mean he was going to be as successful with your team. So, like, if Sam Bennett stays in Calgary, do I think they win a Stanley Cup because he stays? No. Now, Matthew Tkachuk, game changer.
Yeah.
Different story. But when we talk about Reinhart in Buffalo, Bennett in Calgary, and I'm not absolving these teams from what they didn't do right, because they didn't do things right. But I am saying, don't just jump to the assessment that if Sam Bennett were to come to Minnesota and be the number one center, the Wild is going to replicate what the Panthers had. That's not true. Or if Ryan Hartman goes to Florida and has success on the third line and hoists the cup, how could we give up a guy that's hoisting the cup? Because these guys fit into roles. There are guys, Kachuk's a perfect example. There are guys that are difference makers as far as your franchise goes. And then there are guys that fit in like puzzles or pieces in a puzzle. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would say that Bennett is. Very good at it, but that's what he is. I would say that is what a lot of the guys that the Panthers obtained put them together, and the puzzle fit together perfectly, which is awesome. But, don't say, but what if Jake Middleton goes to the Tampa Bay Lightning and wins a cup? It's because he fits in there.
Yeah.
It's not because he went there and became Bobby freaking Orr. I just feel like we get that. I feel like we get confused at times, including myself, of, oh my God, this guy went and had success. What were you doing? Now, there's other guys that are star players. Those guys you want to keep. Mm-hmm. The other guys can always be moved around, shuffled around, and Hartman proved it in the playoffs, too. He's really good in the playoffs. But are you willing to put up with all of the other nonsense to get there and maybe not get there because he doesn't fit in? So that's my only word of caution.
I mean, if your checkbox for what you want to sign, like Dmitry Kulikov also was on the Wild. He just hoisted the cup. Granted, I think like Jake Middleton is a plus player compared to him. Nico Sturm, former Wild player, he just hoisted the cup for a second time. He with the Avalanche.
Played. I know.
And that's the thing. Like,
he's a good face-off guy, though.
He is. Like,
he can win some face-offs for you.
I appreciate what he's done for his career. But yeah, if your only checkbox like thing you need to mark off is that they hoisted a cup, you can make a pretty crappy team of guys that have done that. I would say there's impact playoff guys. There's consistent performers all season long. I feel like Sam Bennett is above average regular season, high impact playoff guy.
Right.
Very good player. Like, would it be nice to have him on the Wild? Yes, but the price point there, I think, is what is going to come down to why I probably now veer away because a team's going to pay $8.
You'll be paying him to be a star.
Yes, and I just don't think he's that unless you are in the very last stages of the season.
All right, the next name, let's just skip past it. Yakov Trenin. Yes, if I could trade him in a heartbeat. Yes, it's a good contract. I do not care. I would trade him. Yes, he played well in the playoffs. I saw a lot of things I didn't like, and I will stop there.
Yeah,
David Juracek, I think, should be in the likely going nowhere bin. Uh, like if we're basing this on common sense, after what Bill Guerin gave up for him, I see him going nowhere. And plus, he is a defenseman that I want to build around. Like if he was a sixth pick, you traded a ton, including your 2025 first round pick. So it's possible. I would say no, it's not. Brodin, Spurgeon. I would actually flip Middleton and Juracek. I would say that Jake should be more in the it's possible bin, and Juracek should be in the likely going nowhere bin.
I agree with that. I think this is maybe the name I disagree with the most from this article.
Yeah,
because we're in. I'm not gonna say honey, but like we're in a certain close time span where I don't see if you were to trade him on the what is received by each team. I'm not seeing one name. I'm seeing first round pick, second round pick, third round pick, fourth round pick, Damon Hunt still. We're not out of that. I'm seeing 5 assets being traded.
100%.
PR move, this would be insane to add him like as a splash to like get something over the line. That is so much value. And I think Bill Guerin is smarter than that. At least as of right now. That would be insane to move him for, unless you're getting equal that back. And obviously this isn't a hypothetical trade, but if you're thinking about him as just one player still, I think you're ridiculous. On the market value, it's 5 assets. One of them was a first round pick. Like, the fact that he is in this tier to me is very confusing. He should be higher, much more safe. I don't think he's going anywhere.
How do you go into Craig Leopold's office if you're Bill Guerin and say, you know what, dude, we're gonna trade him? Like if I'm Craig, I'm like, can't you trade Jake?
Yeah.
Can't you throw in Jake and Brodin and Spurgeon? Like, yeah, no. I don't think that you are trying to build a culture. You are trying to build a team now that is out of cap hell. And if you're going to trade, if you are going to give up what they gave up, I'm completely with you. Okay, let's go through most likely to be traded. Marco Rossi. Enough said. I mean, we talked about it. Liam Ogren, Freddie Gaudreau, modified no trade. David Spacek, who I guess wants out as well. Right shot defenseman, but he's now blocked by Juracek, his countryman and good buddy. Rossi, Ogren, Gaudreau, Spacek. I think there is a very good chance, and this is just a gut feel, Ogren does get moved. The Rossi thing is just weird now. Like, I don't know what they're going to get for him. But I guess of this list, if we're just accepting that until he's not traded, Marco Rossi will be in a major trade for a center. Ogren, to me, probably almost has to be included.
Yeah, like if you were to rank these guys in terms of who's out of this category, who's most likely to go to least, I think it's Rossi, Ogren, Spacek, Gaudreau. Rossi, I mean, we've talked about it for way too long. I kind of just want either them to extend him or trade him so we can move on and talk about what they're either getting back or what they're sticking with. Ogren feels like the most inevitable. You're going to throw in because whoever you trade for now, especially after you've buried him in the playoffs, like you're going to have to raise the value on your side to make a move more than likely if you want to improve there. Ogren is that guy because there is some untapped potential. He hasn't really gotten his shot. Some people think he's going to be equivalent to a Brock Besser type of player, but you also don't know. I'd be fine with both those guys moving on, though, because you have brought back Marcus Johansson. So what does that do on the wing side? And if you do want to go into free agency and sign a winger, that's another guy that takes away from a spot from Ogren. And then where does he go?
My regret is this. And if you get the right center back, okay, I get it. But I have one regret about this entire thing. Was he really so bad you couldn't give him his chance up here?
Ogren?
Like, yes.
Okay.
But like you never gave him like if you trade him now, you never gave him a chance.
Yeah.
You never gave him the opportunity, and I know there's always deficiencies. And I get that, okay? But this is a first round pick. And if you move him, you are going to do so without ever having had a true prolonged look at what he would look like as a top 6 guy. And the last time I looked, a year ago, you missed the playoffs. And this year, you barely made it. You had injuries, and it sure as hell would have seemed that he could have gotten playing time. So I'm not anti-trading him, but I think the decision to basically bury him in Iowa because there was always something that was not right, or we have Marcus Johansson, which is why I hate that he's back. The salary's fine, but he's a clog. He's clogging up the plumbing of my hockey team. And so that's my regret. If you trade him, you never gave him a chance. And there's a chance he's bad. There's a chance he's okay. There's also a chance he's good. And that disappoints me.
My problem with them trading, even Rossi too, but they've given him more of a chance. Ogren, my biggest gripe is that it feels like this franchise just refuses to trust players unless they're like stars right out of the gate. Like Brock Faber came in and there was a clear impact. You're not really getting like, there was the dance they were doing with Adam Beckman for what felt like 6 years. And granted, they've moved on from him and he hasn't done anything.
Sure.
I understand that. So it's very possible that the guys that run a professional hockey organization know what they're doing. But also, Iowa has been bad the past however many years. Like, you can't go, well, they're not carrying them to a Calder Cup down there. So what are we going to, you got to give them a chance. You got to.
He's a first round pick though. Like Beckman was a minor leaguer. I'm fine with the Beckmans of the world. Give him a chance. Don't give him a chance. We can rave about their training camps. It's, it's spring training baseball. He had 5 home runs. Okay. But he wasn't that good. But I'm not even talking about, I'm talking about, he's a first round pick.
Yes. I need to see him at least get a chance. Cause you can't, like, we're trading him and it's like, well, shoulda, coulda, woulda. If he scores 25 goals next season with whoever they trade him to, it's like that would have been nice to have on the Wild. And you're right. It's very possible and obviously probably more likely that he's an okay player at best. And then it's like, okay, but the percentages wise, you got to at least give him a chance so we know. Like if we see him for 20 games and he doesn't show a lot, I'm going to say, yeah, absolutely throw him in. The problem is then maybe that affects throwing him in with a Rossi trade. I don't know. It's such a weird situation.
Just to be clear, I think we are both anti-trading Rossi unless he's asking for a contract that is more than what Boldy gets, which is 7 times 7. So I think we're both, but we've beaten that to death. So I'm just saying the next thing to me is if you throw Ogren into a trade, you never gave him an opportunity. And it's not like you're winning Stanley Cups. And also,
exactly.
The last point about this, where you sort of indicted yourself as guilty as charged, is when you put John Merrill back in for Bouillon. And I know Bouillon had some screw-ups, okay?
Yeah.
But when you put John Merrill, when your justification was we trust John Merrill more than a kid who clearly can use really high level experience. And by the way, I think would have improved. Juracek plays pretty good, comes back here, can't crack the lineup. So these are the things that are concerning. Like, what does it take? And that might be John Hines, but it's the Chris Finch thing. Terrence Shannon Jr. is not getting off my bench, but then he does, and he's pretty damn good. Love your veterans all you want, but you said it and you're right. This is a business. This is not about loyalty, especially if you're not hoisting Lord Stanley and dancing to Pink Pony Club in a discotheque or whatever that was that the Panthers were at last night or 2 nights
ago.
The elbow room. Yeah. Yeah. So we're done. AJ, Judd, we will see you next week with Jesse Pierce. Thanks for watching.